Hi, I'm Virginia defense attorney Scott Nolan, and I'm going to talk to you about single car accidents. I have a client, let's call him Tony, and Tony was driving, got into an accident. Didn't hit anybody else, just a single car accident. But it was a bad one. When the police eventually arrived on scene, Tony's car was upside down, sitting on its roof. Tony was standing beside it, smoking a cigarette, and the police arrived and said he smelled like alcohol. Now, right at that moment, how would the police possibly prove that Tony had been DUI? How do they know he drove the car? It's his car, but did he have to be driving it? Not necessarily. And how do they know that he was intoxicated when he did? Maybe he drank after the accident, or maybe he drank just before the accident, but if he was intoxicated, didn't become so until later. Alcohol takes some time to work its way through your system. So this is a conundrum for the police. How do they prove that Tony was driving the vehicle? How do they prove when he drove the vehicle? And how do they prove that he drove the vehicle while intoxicated? If you've been watching my videos for a while, you already know the answer to that. There is absolutely no way to prove any of those things without a witness. And there's only one witness to that accident, Tony himself. So let's go through this. The police find a car. It's obviously been in a bad accident, and the owner of the car is standing right next to it. Now, that owner is wise and says nothing. Now, the police are going to say to themselves, well, he obviously was the driver. Fine. For purposes of everyday logic, that makes sense. But how do you prove it beyond a reasonable doubt? Is it possible that there was another driver and Tony was the passenger? Is it possible there was another driver and Tony got called, said, hey man, I wrecked your car, and Tony came along? It's not likely, but is it possible? Yes, it is. And the fact of the matter is, there would be no way to prove that Tony was the driver of that vehicle if Tony hadn't have said, yeah, I was driving. Because you better believe the first thing the police asked him was, were you driving this car? Or how did the accident happen? Or something like that. They got him to say, well, I was going around the curb and it flipped. And at that moment, the police suddenly had a chance to win this case. Prior to that moment, there was zero chance that the police were going to win this case. But they have to do more. They have to prove when he drove the vehicle. Because under Virginia law, the breath test must be taken within 3 hours of the driving. How do you prove that your test is within 3 hours of the driving if you don't know when the driving occurred? So the police will also ask for a time. Well, how long ago was that? Oh, I don't know. Or they might say, when did you leave the bar? They don't want to be so obvious. Oh, half an hour ago. Well, now we've got a time limit. Finally, how do they prove that you were intoxicated at the time of driving? Well, it's one very simple question, and that is, you didn't have anything to drink after you were driving, did you? Or the reverse, did you have anything to drink after driving? For some reason, people are always anxious to say, oh, no, I didn't have anything to drink after the driving. Well, now you just proved that you had it to drink before the driving. And if we've got the time, and we've got your admission that you were driving the car, and we've got the fact that any alcohol you consumed was prior to driving, you're about to be convicted. Tony thought, as almost everybody thinks, that he was helping himself by saying, seeming to be honest and saying, or in fact being honest, and saying, yep, this is my car, just giving the police some facts that they obviously already knew. The facts that the police obviously already know are very often the most damaging ones that you can admit to. If Tony had simply said, officers, I have nothing to say, this would be a slam dunk win. Notice, Tony doesn't have to lie, and as in every video, never lie to the police. not only are they going to see through it, but it gives them, no matter what you say, true or false, it's going to hurt you. Never lie to the police. But if Tony had simply kept his mouth shut, they would not be able to prove who was the driver. They would not be able to prove when the driving occurred, and they would not be able to prove when he consumed the alcohol that they would find in his system. What is the takeaway here, besides don't drink and drive, which folks don't drink and drive? Don't talk. It's as simple as that. Not don't tell the police this thing or that thing. Your mouth should open, if at all, to breathe and for no other purpose. In the ideal encounter, you will not have uttered a single syllable. You will have given the officer your license and registration and said nothing. If you must say something, if you're going to succumb to that very human desire to say something, then you say, "Good evening, officer. I have nothing to say. I will not be speaking any further." Don't get me wrong. You're still going to be arrested. You're still going to jail. 100%. The moment they smell alcohol, you're going to jail that night. Just get used to that idea. Don't open your mouth to say anything until you leave that jail the next morning. You do that, and you're far better off, particularly in a single car accident case. I'm Scott Nolan. If you've got any questions, feel free to give me a call. I'd be happy to talk to you. And you have a great day.